Pramila Jayapal, chair of the Progressive Caucus in Congress, was interviewed by Dana Bash, CNN's Dana Bash. And let me just say this. I kind of felt for Dana Bash because this was clearly not her question. This question likely came from her producers who were trying to set a narrative to try to further mislead the American people about what's really going on in Israel. Now, the question about rape came in. And as we all know, progressives in Congress and throughout the country, they are upset with what's going on in Gaza. What they want is a ceasefire. They're not defending Hamas. They're not trying to say that Hamas's terroristic act of killing 1,200 Israelis was correct. That was absolutely not the case. But likewise, as Obama said, there is blood on everybody's hands in these conflicts. Now, that said, Dana Bass brought up the issue of the Hamas terrorists raping women. A horrendous thing, okay? But it's also horrendous to be cutting people's heads off. It's also horrendous to be bombing buildings where young kids' skulls are cracked and women and children and men are all blasted away, right? So all these are bad things. All these things are a part of war. Why it is that progressives are saying ceasefire, let's do things some other way. You don't want to kill people left and right just to get the individual terrorists that are around them. You want to contain the issue, and if you had a modicum of humanity, what you would do is in effect contain your terrorists to prevent these things from happening over and over again. Something that Israel did not do. Remember, Netanyahu turned the other eye. He facilitated the ability for Hamas to get funded because he wanted Hamas sufficiently alive to be in opposition to the Palestinian Authority, so there would be no negotiations for a two-state solution. Not my word, the word from the newspaper Haaretz in Israel, as well as tapes that we had between Netanyahu and his Likud party. These are statements of fact. Additionally, we have to remember that while the United States is providing funding for Israel, he goes and he tells his people, hey guys, we can control the Americans. We can do whatever we want. Look, America didn't want me to invade Gaza, and I did it anyway. The only solution, the only way you can ensure that we don't get a two-state solution, this is him talking to his right-wing party and the right. The only way you can ensure that there is no two-state solution is that you keep me in power. I am the only one who can do that. Sounds Trump-like, right? Sounds very Trump-like. So that is what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with Netanyahu, who is leading the Israeli people astray, and he's creating more problems for our Jewish brothers and sisters by being the terrorist animal that he is. Nobody can look at killing 15,000 people and saying you still have much more to go as far as bombing is concerned. And now the great thing about this interview that we did, that Dana Bass did with Pramila Jayapal, is that when she tries to turn the subject into something that she thinks is going to let Americans say, oh my God, you mean Hamas came into Israel and raped women? Yes, that's a bad thing. But Pramila turned it right around and said, we claimed it's a bad thing, but it's also a bad thing what we're doing. There are 15,000 dead Palestinians. Yes, there are 1,200 dead Israelis. Terrible. But there are 15,000 dead Palestinians and counting. There is destroyed infrastructure and counting. They are moving all these people in the space of Las Vegas all the Palestinian people are set to stuff in that area, and then we're going to bomb that area, so go somewhere else. And when Dana Bash tries to come back, she says, we're not going to talk about the hierarchy of oppression, which Dana Bash finally agreed with. I want you to listen to this interview. We need spokespeople for humanity, spokespeople for the truth, spokespeople that are apolitical with respect to humanity, as we had out of Pramila Jayapal. Listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
I want to ask you about sexual violence. And it's kind of remarkable that this issue hasn't gotten enough attention globally. Widespread use of rape, brutal rape, sexual violence against Israeli women by Hamas. I've seen a lot of progressive women, generally speaking, they're quick to defend women's rights and speak out against using rape as a weapon of war, but downright silent on what we saw on October 7th and what might be happening inside Gaza right now to these hostages. Why is that?
I mean, I don't know that that's true. I think we always talk about the impact of war on women in particular. In fact, I remember 20 years ago, I did a petition around the war in Iraq.
Have you said,
saying
have
that,
you talked about it since October 7th?
Absolutely. And I've condemned what Hamas has done. I've condemned
specifically
all of
women?
the actions. Absolutely. The rape, of course. But I think we have to remember that Israel is a democracy. That is why they are a strong ally of ours. And if they do not comply with international humanitarian law, they are bringing themselves to a place that makes it much more difficult strategically for them to be able to build the kinds of allies to keep public opinion with them. And frankly, morally, I think we cannot say that one war crime deserves another. That is not what international humanitarian law says.
Okay, with respect, I was just asking about the women, and you turned it back to Israel. I'm asking you about Hamas. In fact,
I already answered your question, Dana. I said it's horrific, and I think that rape is horrific, sexual assault is horrific. I think that it happens in war situations. Terrorist organizations like Hamas obviously are using these as tools. However, I think we have to be balanced about bringing in the outrages against Palestinians. 15,000 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli airstrikes, 3/4 of whom are women and children.
And it's horrible, but you don't see Israeli soldiers raping.
Well, Dana, I think we're not. I don't want this to be the hierarchy of oppressions. I think 15,000 people have been killed.
It shouldn't be, which is horrible.
And 2.2 million Palestinians live in a 140 square mile area, which is about the size of Las Vegas, with a population that is 4 times that of Las Vegas. And 1.8 million Palestinians right now are displaced. They are living in shelters. They are being told to move to South Gaza. Then South Gaza is being bombed. They're being told to move to North Gaza. There are no homes left. The vast majority of infrastructure has been destroyed. This is not the way that we are going to beat terrorism, whether it's Hamas or some future iteration of Hamas.
Dana Bash, I guess after realizing that she lost that point that she was trying to, the narrative change, she said something that I found striking. You don't find Israeli soldiers raping Palestinian women. The truth of the matter is, I don't know that. I do know that the videos I see of how Israeli soldiers treat women in both the West Bank and Gaza is kicking women in their heads if they're protesting and treating them like animals. I tell you something, as this dude from Latin America, we've seen a man kick a woman like that, a soldier. It's jarring. And that's what I saw on several of these videos. And we should remember, let's not get onto this super moral high ground, because a lot of our soldiers during the Vietnam War, as it got out of hand and they invaded these little communities, that is exactly what they did as well. So look, war is terrible, and it reiterates what Pramila Jayapal talks about. We need a ceasefire. Pramila Jayapal, Representative Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, nailed it. She did not allow a narrative change based on false emotions. Rape is horrendously terrible, and progressives are against it just as much as bombing and killing of 15,000 women, children, and men, including hospitals, is unforgivable. Netanyahu must go, and we must work towards, at minimum, a two-state solution.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.